be slowly decreasing. And again, after next year, at the same time, when they give another offer at the same time, again the sales will go high. Again, it will come down. It will again continue. It will again go up, come down. So this is how the seasonal trend will look like. The seasonal trend may go up, it might go smooth, or it might go a sudden spike, or it might happen, it might repeat at the same time, or it might repeat different times. Let's say if we take the Amazon or other e-commerce, they are not just giving offers for just one festive season, right? They will give offers for each and every festive season. They give one for Sankranti, one for Dasara, and one for Deepavali. Like, they give for each and every festival, they give a festive offer. So what happens, even in the year of data, let's say this is 1 year of data, for the first January festival it went up, for again April fest it went up, and then again October fest it went up, and again December fest it went up. So at each and every festive season it may repeat. The trend which is being repeated is nothing but more sales, rather than like more sales than the usual sales which they might get without any festive offers. So tracking these can benefit a company. If a company can track these sales, like which festive season is giving them more benefits, they might get more stock. If they understood which festive season is giving them more sales at that specific festive season, they might put more stock than the previous year. Then they might get even more sales, right? Or they might even compensate, or nothing but meet the demand of the people. That is one way. And the cyclic component is the third one. The third one, cyclic component, this is also a repetition similar to that of seasonal, but the cyclical doesn't go with the the in an year seasonal trend. It happens more than an year. If any trend which is happening more than an year, it is being repeated, and usually there won't be any reasons for this cyclical trend. There might be a business component, if we take the business cycle as an example, how our business cycle looks like. What happens is that our business cycle, at initial our sales will be low, and suddenly our sales will increase, and after that our sales will goes on increasing. After few days, what happens, our sales will slowly go down, because the demand for the product might have reached to many people already. At initial stages our product might be costly, but later when we start mass production and we are giving it for less price, many people will start buying. But after few days passed, after a few months, or maybe a few years, let's say, what happens, the demand might be full. Then what happens, the sales will slowly go down. Then obviously what we do, we try to make upgrades in the past product, or we try to launch a new product. What happens then, again the price will start slowly, the sales will start increasing. So again it will go up, and it will again go slowly go down. So this is how a business cycle looks like. So this business cycle, what happens, the sales are starting slowly increasing and then decreasing, and again increasing and then decreasing. The time may be less than a year, or maybe more than a year as well. So these kind of cycles are what this cyclical component explains. So in a time series data, we try to track these cyclical trends as well, mainly for companies such as, if you take Apple, they will launch a new iPhone each and every year almost. So whenever they launch a new iPhone, obviously the sales of the companies goes high. And again, whenever after a few months, just before a new iPhone being launched, the sales will go drastically down, because the people are expecting a new iPhone. They want to buy the new one rather than the old one, so the sales will go down. So that's how the cyclical component works. It actually links to the business strategies which we apply on our company. So this cyclical component explains that. And coming to the last one, random component, as I already explained, it is nothing but a sudden spike, or we can say a sudden drop. If we take the pandemic as an example, in the 2020, if you see, most of the stock prices and even most of the sales of many companies fell down drastically, because of the lockdowns and because of the other unexpected situations. Even many people stopped going out, and because of the lockdown they stayed home. And many companies who doesn't employed these online services for their employees, what happened, they even lost their companies. They even stopped working like they even unemployed these employees, and they stopped working for the company. And what happened, the sales drastically fell down. So such a drastical change suddenly would not been expected probably. If I am right, even if you take the past 10 years data, you can never predict that there will happen such a situation where the whole market will collapse, like how it happened in the pandemic situation. You cannot predict such an event. So these kind of events are nothing but the random events. These the components of the time series data which explains such a movement is called random component. But actually tracking this random component is hard. We can identify there is a random component or nothing but there is a random event occurring at a particular point of a time series by just looking at the time series data. When we plot it, we can understand there is some kind of a sudden random movement happening in it, but we cannot track that and we cannot use it for our predictions. Because if we try to track it, if we try to put that variance into our models, and if we try to average our variance, and if we try to predict our value, it will not be more accurate. If we want to predict more accurately, we want to neglect these random movements and go with our basic trend movements and seasonal movements to get a better predictions. So if we take what are the long-term trends here, trend component is the long-term, cyclical component is the long-term, seasonal and the random or the short-term, nothing but less than a year, and the cyclical and the trend components happens more than a year. That is how we divide the time series components into. So now coming to the stationarity of data. What is stationary or nothing but what is stationarity of a data, of a time series data? There are two kinds of two ways to explain this. One way is just a graph. If we take a graph and if we see any time series plot which is showing, if we see if it is like this, let's say, then the mean of all these values will be this line, and the variance is nothing but how much it is farther away from the from the mean value. That will be the variance. So these values, variance and this mean value, should be constant over time. Let's say if I have a data, let's say in next example here, if you can see here, there are three examples here to explain which is stationary and which is not. Here if we see, the mean is stationary. Mean is stationary, nothing but the center line is flat, nothing but the mean is stationary. I mean this mean line, this will be the mean line which is flat, nothing but it is stationary, nothing but it is constant at each and every data point. And coming to the stationary variance, what will be the stationary variance? The stationary variance is nothing but the change, the maximum change and the maximum the maximum change which can be identified. It is almost constant, nothing but it is not being drastically changed at a particular point of time, and it is changing very normally at another point. If we see here it is saying that the variance is not stationary. That means the highest values are actually decreasing. The variance is being changed over a period of time. Such a value is not, we doesn't consider it as a stationary. And even here, if we understand, here it is saying that non-stationary mean. What does non-stationary mean? The average mean value is not in a straight line. That means the mean value is actually not stationary, means not constant. So in terms of mean and variance, if we understand what will be the data, which data will be called as a stationary data? If the mean and the variance are constant, then we can say that the data is stationary. And how can we identify this? There are two ways. We can go with the graphical explanation or we can go with statistical way. One graphical explanation is nothing but trying to plot the data and trying to see, to understand. If we can see here clearly, if we see this kind of data, if the data is going uptrend and downtrend at the same time, obviously the mean will be never stationary. Or if we see such a data, the change in the variance is being observed clearly, then we can say that there is no constant variance. So there will the data is not stationary. So the visual way is this one, nothing but plotting a line plot of the data and just trying to observe it, if we can identify if the mean is constant or the variance is constant or not. We can even go with the second way. It is nothing but trying to find out the statistical way. In the statistical way, we have two tests actually. We have ADF test and the KPSS test. ADF is augmented Dickey-Fuller test, and the KPSS, there are 4 scientists who invented this. These two tests actually let us know, these two are hypothesis testing, and these two will let us know which is whether the data is stationary or not. So I will first show you what are the hypotheses within the ADF and the KPSS test. ADF is the augmented Dickey-Fuller test, and here you can see in ADF test the null hypothesis is saying data is not stationary, and then alternate hypothesis that it is saying that data is stationary. These are the two hypotheses for the ADF test, and it will be reversed for the KPSS test. In KPSS test, we can see that the null hypothesis is data is stationary, but alternate hypothesis data is not stationary. And if you remember, what is the basic rule for the hypothesis testing? The p-value. The p-value should be less than 0.01. Only then you reject H0. So if we want data to be stationary and we are using ADF, this will be the reverse for KPSS test, because in KPSS test, the null hypothesis is saying data is stationary. That means we want to accept H0. If we want to accept H0, the p-value should be greater than 0.05. So these are the two requirements. And if we see the KPSS full form here, we can see it is Kwiatkowski, Phillips, Schmidt, and Shin test. So these are the 4 scientists actually who created this test, KPSS test, and they created these two like hypotheses, and they created a background formula for finding out whether a data is stationary or not. They track these mean and variances, and each of them is a different test, because one of them prioritizes mean but the other prioritizes variance. That is why both of these tests are unique in their own way. That means if ADF test says the data is stationary, the KPSS might say the data is not stationary, because the KPSS is not following the same way the ADF is following. That means if one of these two tests failed, means nothing but ADF test is saying data is stationary, but the KPSS is telling data is not stationary. That means data is not stationary. If the data to be stationary, then both of these tests to be solved, because one of the test explains mean and the other test explains variance. So both of these tests should say that the data is stationary. Only then we can go forward with the other process, whichever we want to apply on a stationary data. If we take example, the ARIMA modeling. The ARIMA modeling requires an assumption. The assumption is that this data is stationary. So you need to test whether the data is stationary or not before going forward with the ARIMA testing. And if the data is not looking stationary, then we would not go with the ARIMA modeling, because we need to convert the data first into stationary data. There is actually a way to convert the non-stationary data into stationary data. There are 2 ways actually. One of them is differencing, nothing but the diffing, and the second one is logarithm. I think everyone must have remembered logarithm, because logarithm is nothing but the log value, and the log values, what happens if we apply a log value, the value of the whatever the value might be, it will be drastically reduced to as much small values as 1 minus 1 to plus 1. it can happen. I doesn't say it exactly comes to -1, comes between the -1 and +1, but it can be reduced if you apply more than one logarithm. It might, if you apply like say 5 times, if you apply logarithm for a value, for any value, the value will come to -1 to +1. Maybe 5 times, maybe 6 times. It might take n number of times, but there is a possibility to reduce that value. Whatever the value is, it might be as big as possible, but you can reduce that value to -1 to +1 until and unless you are applying these logarithm to it. So what happens if you are trying to what is the best benefit of this logarithm is it actually smooths the curve. What happens is when you are trying to track the variance, in the variance, what it is happening, it is trying to identify the difference between the mean and the maximum point. So this difference, what it is there, it is actually so narrow. This can be reduced if we try to apply logarithm. So that means if we want to make the variance as a stationary, if you observe a non-stationary variance in a data and you want to reduce this non-stationarity in the variance, and if you want to convert this as a stationary variance, what you apply logarithm. So what does the differencing do? The differencing does is that it tries to makes the mean constant. How does it do? When you see the data like this, if the data is like this, it is showing that the mean value is not stationary. That means the mean is not constant. So if you apply a diffing here, what happens? Each and every value, it is being subtracted from the previous value. So it is directly plotting the difference of the each and every value with its previous values. By doing that, it will be making this curve, the mean curve, which is shown here, to this type of mean curve, nothing but a flat mean curve. So that is how you convert a non-stationary mean data into a stationary data. So when you are trying to apply this ADF and KPSS test, if you find out any one of these is showing that the data is not stationary, then you will try applying either diffing or logarithm, and you will then check whether the data is converted to stationary or not. If it is not, you will try to apply again. You can even apply more than one time to make it stationary. That is what the main minimum requirement is, that you might have to apply more than once. Even just by applying one diffing might not be enough. You might have to apply more than one time. You might have to apply 2 to 3 times. That is when the data can be converted to stationary. So I think everyone understood. If you have any doubts, please ask me. If we don't have any doubts, we can go with the coding part of this. I will show you how to import a data and how to make it into time series data, and how to test the stationarity on it, and how can we go with this, how to convert the data into stationary. I will show all these codings if we have no doubts. Just let me know if you have any doubts. Sure. Yeah.
Random component can also be called as irregular component, no?
Yeah, of course.
And then one thing, can we plot air passengers there?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Is it possible?
Yeah, it is possible. Why not?
Okay.
Actually, I have a small data set similar to that of air passengers. I will show you that. It is almost same as air passengers, but it is not the air passengers. Let me first quickly show you that data set. Actually, this is the data which I have. This is also a kind of air passengers data set, but which have I have added this month value here. Okay, this data is almost same as the air passengers, but this one which I have added here is the month values. These values may not be previously required to be added in our R. When we are trying to convert a data from non-time series to a time series data in R, we don't require any other tools or other softwares to convert the data into time series. But if you are doing in Python, you have two options. One, you can either create a data set which is having one column of dates, like either we can create an array of times, array of the time, and then add it to the data frame which you have. That is one way to do it, or we can even apply it in the Excel sheet or maybe in other softwares which you are opening the data. Here I have added in the Excel software here. These months are being added, and after adding these months, now this is the data which I have. And I want to import this data into our Python. So let's quickly just import this data into our what is the name of it? Here I have imported the data. Now let's say I don't want this index column which is showing here 0, 1, 2, 3. These are not what I want to be shown because in our time series data, if you remember, the index is the time actually. So how can you convert, like nothing but remove this column, remove this index? You can just give a command, index column equal to 0. That's how you will remove the index column. Now this month is what the index is, but whether this month is index or not, whether this data is time series or not. Actually, if we currently check this type of data, what is it showing? It is showing data frame, and there is one small command which we can add here, which is called squeeze. And if we add this command, what will it happen? Now it is showing as series. Why it is showing as series? Because it is time series now. Here this series identifies the time series. This data which it is now showing, let's say, let me show you the data right now. Now it is showing this month value, and here the name of the column has been removed. Why it is being removed? Because now it is a time series data. So how to convert any data into time series? All you need to do is apply this small command, give the squeeze equal to true, and the data will be converted into time series. Now you actually cannot apply the other values, like if we go with the info, this command may not be applied on it. Why? Because it only applies on the data frames. And this is not the data frame. Series object has no attribute as info. That's what it says. So you cannot apply such a command. So what happens now? We have our data, time series data. Now what do we want to do first? First, let's plot this. Let's plot this data and see how does it looks. So to plot this data, what do we require? We require the pyplot command here. It is from the matplotlib library. So what do? We just do plt.plot of data. It will just show us the data. How does it looks like? If we can carefully look into this, you can understand that the variance is not constant at each and every point. I think everyone can see this. If you can see this, the variance is not constant at each and every value of this. That means the data doesn't look stationary. Just by looking at this, we can say that the data is not stationary, but we still want to verify whether the data is stationary or not. How can we verify that? If we want to verify whether the data is stationary or not, we have two tests, right? What is the first one? The ADF test, right? And where is the ADF test located? Actually, we have a stats modules package, and in the stat modules package, we have this ADF test. So how to import that? From stats modules. In stat modules, there is a module called STA. One second. TSA, sorry, time series. Okay, TSA, time series analysis. And in the TSA module, we have tools, stats tools. these stats tools, we have our Dickey-Fuller test. AD-Fuller is the augmented Dickey-Fuller test. This is the function which we need to import before we apply this ADF test. Now, before we apply this ADF test, we want to like separate these values from the time series data which we have. This time series data, it is actually showing the whole time series. Let's see what does it shows if we are trying to see these values. See, this is the array. It is showing an array. This is the array input which is required in this ADF test. Then only we will get the required output. So we need to convert these values into data into these data dot values. Nothing but we can just give it to some x or whatever it is. Any variable we can take here. Data dot, we take values. And now that we have the values of the data which we have, we can apply these values to our Dickey-Fuller test. So how can we apply? Nothing but AD-Fuller of x. But what will it throw out when I just try to print this? You can see here there are different values it is showing out. But what value is what? How to understand? That is where I come in. Let me explain. This first part, it is showing the F statistic. This F statistic is not what we measure. We want the p-value simply. So what is the p-value? P-value is nothing but this second value here. So actually, in what happens in our Python. In Python, our indexing start with 0. That means this will be a 0th value, this will be the 1 value, this will be 2, this will be 3, and similarly this will be the last value. So which value is the p-value here? P-value is this second one. And how to get this second one? Just we want this p-value, right? We don't want all other values. If we just want this p-value, what do we know? Just give the 1. So now we got this p-value of our ADF test. So if we observe this, what is it is showing? It is showing 0.99. What is 0.99 is 0.99 is greater than 0.05. So as it is greater than 0.05, what is our requirement? If we remember, the requirement of our ADF test is that the p-value should be less than 0.05. Then only we can say data is stationary. Or else we will be accepting our H0. That means data is not stationary. So as it is not less than 0.05, our ADF test is telling that this data which we have is not stationary. But how to convert this data into stationary? Let's apply differencing or variance. As we can see, the variance is the one component, but the other component, if we see the mean line is also not a straight line. If you observe, it is actually a curvilinear. We want to get that into a straight line if possible. So how to get that into straight line? We can apply differencing. So let's apply both and see which we can apply. So firstly, let us apply. Let me add a data column here. Let me apply data equal to data dot differencing. Right. So I have, see, if you see, this data is, now I have applied the differencing value on this data. Now if you see, the data is not same as the previous data, because I will show you by plotting it. See, now you can understand that the mean value will be a straight line here. Rather than in the previous one, if you understand, it is not in a straight line, it is a little curvilinear, but it is now being reduced to a straight line. But whether this value here, you can still see that the variance is not constant because it is being increased over time. It is not constant from starting to ending. That is what we observed, right? In our example, which I have shown here, if we see, the variance is not straight line here. It is actually decreasing over time in this example. But here in our real example, which we are applying with our code, we can see that the value is the variance value is being increased over time. So that means the data is not stationary, but we have to still test it whether it is stationary or not. We need to apply our ADF test, but we are getting a issue here. What we are getting, it is showing that NaNs, nothing but there are missing values. So whenever we apply diffing, remember that there will be missing values in our first or the second values of our data set. That happens because whenever you are trying to make a differencing, you are just differencing it with our previous values. So it is actually taking two differencing. That is why from the third data point, it is subtracting the first one, and the fourth one it is subtracting the second one. Like that, it is subtracting all the data. So when that happens, there is no value for the second data to subtract, because the 0th value, there is no 0th value here. And if we take the first value, it is also having no -1th value, right? That is why there is no value to subtract it from. So there is no value to subtract it from, it is showing NaNs. So you need to remove these NaNs before applying this ADF or KPSS test. How to remove NAFs? Nothing but data dot off, right? Now if you see, now what you are seeing, the p-value is 5 point. You can see that it is showing 5 point, but it is not actually 5 point because it is showing e power -16. That means the point will go behind 16 decimals. That means it is actually less than 0, way less than 0.05. That means now our ADF test says that this data is stationary, but we can clearly understand that this data is not stationary because the variance is not stationary. That means what does the ADF test prioritize? The ADF test prioritize the mean value. Whenever you find this ADF test is saying the data is not stationary, what you need to change? You need to change the mean value. If you change the data might not become stationary. I will show you that as an example here. Let's say we again get this data. Now let's not apply this, but let's apply the logarithm function. Logarithm function is in NumPy package. So just np.log of data. So if we apply this, now you can see the data is not constant or on the mean, but it is constant. If we try to observe, it is being constant over variance. The variance looks constant, but what does our ADF test says? ADF test still says that it is more than 0.05. What does that indicate? That the mean is not constant, but the variance might be constant. So our ADF test only focuses on mean. So what happens whenever ADF test fails? You need to make the mean constant. So let's go with the KPSS test as well. Let's take the data as raw, and now we apply KPSS test. So KPSS test is also in the same package, in the same module. All you need to do is KPSS. In this KPSS function, you need to let's first apply this data values, because you need the values only to apply the KPSS. And if you apply KPSS of X, and here also you are getting more than one values, and here also the second value is the p-value. So all we require the p-value. If you can see, it is showing 0.01. What does that says? It is saying that the value is less than 0.05. If it is showing value less than 0.05, what does the KPSS test indicates? In KPSS test, if the p-value is less than 0.05, you are rejecting null. That means the data is not stationary. The KPSS test states that the data is not stationary. So what does we apply? Let's, as as our ADF test is focusing on mean, let's assume that our KPSS test will be focusing on variance. So we doesn't change mean, doesn't apply any differencing here, but we apply the logarithm value and test whether the KPSS will show us any different values of the p-value. So what does our logarithm function? Logarithm function is np.log of data. So after applying this, let's see the plot as well once for a second. If we can see, the variance kind of looks constant, but let's apply the KPSS test and see. It still doesn't says, it still says that the variance is not constant. So let's try applying one more time the log. How to apply log again is nothing but np.log of data. Still saying less than 0.01. That means the KPSS test might not just focus on variance, but also it may take the mean as well into consideration. Let's remove this variance and just apply diffing. And remove the null values. Okay. Now if we see, it is showing 0.1. What does 0.1 indicate? It is more than 0.05. Am I right? It is not showing less than 0.05. Till now it showed 0.01, right? So as it is showing, yeah. So as it is showing 0.1, that means differencing is what may the mean is what the main value which we need to change in our this data set which we have here to make the data into stationary. And you can try different values actually, not just blindly going on diffing, but also applying these various logarithms and then going with the diffing. Slightly you can understand which way is the better way to deal with this non-stationarity of the data. By doing more examples you can understand it. So that is how you convert the stationary data into, I mean non-stationary data into stationary data. And if we for an for a real-time example, let me explain that each and every data which you observe in a real life, each and every time series data, even if you can take the stock values over time, it would never look stationary because it follows a rule called that the many people might also follow that which says that the market never stays the same. The market either increases or the market either decreases. That means there will be either uptrend or downtrend over a long term. That means if you take a whole data of a more than 1 year, let's say if we collect a company's data from the point of its initiation into the market, like from the points of its introduction to the market, the data will either look up or either go up or either go down. It would never stay stationary. That means the mean and variance might be changing over time. They never stay stationary. Then how can we track these changing mean and variance? That is what we go for other techniques rather than ARIMA. But ARIMA is the best model for applying to finding out the trend and seasonality components. But if we are trying to find out the other components rather than a specific trend, if we take the trend, it will be either uptrend or downtrend, right? But if we observe a dual trend in a like a data set, how can a dual trend look like? If you ask me, this is the example, this middle one. If you see, there is an uptrend from the starting point to this middle point, if we can observe, but later from here, what is happening? It is going downtrend actually. So there is both uptrend and downtrend in the same data set. So if you are having such a data set, then you obviously cannot apply this ARIMA modeling. Or it's not just you cannot apply, but you can apply. You can try to find out this you can try to find out this trend component, but it might not explain the movement of data more accurately, because the trend component here, it is actually showing both up and down, right? So the trend value, the trend component's value will be going up in for few of the data points, but it will go down for the few of the data points. So when you're trying to track such a value, it might not give you an accurate result. So what does we track in such a data sets? We try to track the variance. So we doesn't neglect the variance, nothing but we doesn't go with the stationary data at that point of time. If you are going and applying other models rather than ARIMA, and you are trying to apply GARCH or ARCH techniques, which are basically applied on the data of these kind of types, like which is having both up and down trends in the same data set. Usually you go with these Arch and GARCH techniques. And what does they explain? The Arch and GARCH techniques mostly explain the volatility or the variance, the change in variance. Actually, volatility is nothing but the change in variance. So they try to track this change in variance, and they try to use this those variables to explain this or they predict the future of the data which we have. So that is how the Arch and GARCH techniques goes. But today, as of now, we need to understand what is stationary, because we need to go with our ARIMA modeling first. We need to understand what is ARIMA. Only then we can go with the other techniques, because those are the extension. Nothing but these Arch and GARCH models are the extensions of ARIMA. Unless until you understood the ARIMA completely, you cannot understand the other techniques. So to understand ARIMA, you need to convert the data into stationary. Only then you can apply this ARIMA modeling on a stationary, on a data. So that is why we learned stationarity today. If you have any doubts, please ask me. Otherwise, Kalyan, please take over. You have any doubts?
Gokul, here in the example that you have explained,
Yeah.
you have applied both difference as well as log, right?
Yeah.
Is it that every time we need to check by applying these two simultaneously, or can we generalize that a difference can give us more additive time series?
Of course, if we see, if you try to observe, this is the original data plot, right? Original plot of the data. So if you can observe, the data is actually going in a single trend, right?
Yeah.
The trend is in a single line. If it is, it is kind of only a single trend is being followed here, but the variance is being changed here. Variance might be increasing, that's what we expected. But if we try to, after diffing it, when you plot, once it's plotted as a down variance, but the other time it plotted as an up variance, if you remember. So this what do we say, this model, the approach is always usually needs to be an additive approach. Even if you are going with a multiplicative approach, you apply the logarithm value and convert it to an additive approach. I forgot to explain you approaches, but let me quickly explain that.
Generally, whatever smoothing the curve is additive approach, right? We are converting a multiplicative curve to additive curve, right?
Bro, let me simply give you a basic example how to how to identify additive approach or multiplicative approach in this example here itself. If you can see, if we just consider data up to here, okay, it is only having one trend in it. It is not having more than one trend. That means this kind of data, it will be usually an additive approach. If you identify any data, any plot, it is showing only one trend in it. Let's, as an example, that is how our data also looks like. It is only having one type of trend in it. That is when we go with the additive approach. What happens in the multiplicative approach is, in multiplicative approach, it will be considering more data, nothing but you are having more than one kind of trend in it. Then what happens when you try to plot such a value, the trend doesn't go in a one way. It will go in a one way till a point, and then it turns to a downtrend, or maybe the uptrend value might decrease. the trend value might decrease. Let's say I am having a data set which is showing uptrend till here, but then it is flat. Let's say here there is a trend up, but here there is no trend, nothing, but there is no uptrend, no downtrend, it is going flat. Even such kind of data sets, if you have, these data sets may not go with the additive approach. And what is the additive approach? I think many might have been confused. Let me quickly explain what is additive approach and what is multiplicative approach. What happens here in the trend when you are dividing the components is there will be trend component, there will be a seasonal component, there will be a cyclical component, and there will be a random component, right? So when you are trying to approach this data set with an additive approach, what do is nothing but you are adding all these components, nothing but T plus S plus C plus R. This will be our additive approach. What happens when you are approaching the same data set with a multiplicative approach? You will try to multiply these values, nothing but T into S into C into R. This might look simple, but when you are trying to apply this to a huge data set, how to identify is when you will add the data or when you will multiply the data. Actually, you will never multiply the data. You will when you are applying any models to even the data which looks like a multiplicative data or multiplicative approach needs to be applied on a such data. What you do, you will apply the additive, but what you will when you will apply the additive after you applying a logarithm value. So let's say I have a data and this data looks like, let's say it is going up and then it is going flat. So it looks like a multiplicative approach, but I will not approach multiplicative approach because there are no models for applying any multiplicative approach directly. There are only models for applying additive approach. Even our ERIMA, even if we go with Arch and Gauge, they are all applied on the additive approach only. So how should I convert this multiplicative approach data into an additive approach? All I need to do is logarithm of data. What is logarithm is in NumPy package. If we talk with respect to our Python, you will apply np.logarithm of data. Then how will the data look like? Then the data might look like a straight pattern. Only one trend will be recognized. How this happens is the logarithm values. If you remember your intermediate or 10th class when you learned how the logarithm works. In the logarithm, if you apply a logarithm to any multiplicative values, I mean log A into B, log of A into B, then what does it, the output will look like is it will be equal to log A plus log B. That is how you actually convert an additive model into a multiplicative model into an additive model by just applying logarithm. So if we find any data with such a data set which is showing more than one kind of trend in it, we usually apply this logarithm value to it. One time logarithm will be enough to convert this any multiplicative approach data, any data set which might look like a multiplicative approach into a additive approach, and then you will go with all the normal techniques, data techniques on that model. I think you understood, Varun. Am I clear?
That's very clear.
Yeah, thank you. Any more questions?
Gokul, see, when the variance is constant across the period, it is called additive model, right?
Yeah.
And when variance
actually it's usually depends on the how many types of trends it is having, and the components, how the components are interacting with each other, how you need to approach this data set.
Okay.
That is what the approaches will explain actually. The additive approach is nothing but by adding all the components of the data, you can say this is the whole data. Data is split into different components actually, right? The time series data is split into all the 4 different types of components. How you will split? Either you can split by addition, nothing but adding up all these components will give up our data set, or maybe multiplying all the components would give our whole data set. It can be 2 types, right? Either by multiplying you can get our main data set, or by adding you can get our main data set. That is how the approach is actually. You need to identify whether by adding or by multiplicating it would come to our main data set. How can we identify? Just by looking plot, if we see if there is a one constant trend and the variance shouldn't be, the change in variance shouldn't be huge. Let me show a small example. If you see here, let's say I am having a small data set which is showing like this. Here if you see, the mean is constant and there is only one type of trend, but the variance is drastically increasing. If you see the change in variance, it is not just variance, the change in variance is so high that it is not constant. And even if you observe, if we take a small part of this data, the change in variance is so drastically low, it is showing here, but it is showing the change is very high. So this is how, if we see a data, then this type of data we consider it as a multiplicative approach. Nothing but the components needs to be multiplied to get our value, because if we take a just trend component, it will be a simple straight line. And with this value, you need to add some value which is this large to get to this data point. Rather than adding such a value, you can multiply a small value to this value, right? Then you can just get that. If we take an example, let's take this value as 5 and this value as some 30. If we want to get from 5 to 30, how much we need to add? We need to add 25. Or else what can we do? We can just multiply 6, right? That is how you identify, is it a multiplicative approach or additive approach? If this variance is constant, nothing but, if you see a data set which is having some small changes like this, then the change in variance is not too high. That means the value from here to here will not be so different. That means there will not be huge difference from these two values, the mean value and the highest value, we can say. Though the value might not be very huge difference. In that case, we go with the additive approach. That is how we understand whether the data is additive, or we need to approach this data as additive or multiplicative. If you ask me, we don't need to actually identify whether this data is multiplicative approach or additive approach, because we go with this test called stationarity, right? We are trying to find out whether the data is stationary or not. Even if the data you are trying to approach is multiplicative or additive approach, you will check for the data stationarity, and if the data is not stationary, you will try applying both differencing and logarithm. And after applying logarithm, if the data goes stationary, what does that mean? The data is already in a multiplicative approach and you need to apply a logarithm to get into an additive approach. That is what the stationarity is also kind of explaining. Understood? In stationarity, we apply the logarithm to convert the data into stationary. Any non-stationary data, if you apply logarithm, it will convert into stationary. So what happens when you are applying logarithm? That means you are actually converting the multiplicative data into an additive data. That is how you can even identify when your data goes stationary after applying one logarithm or maybe two logarithm. You can just say the data is additive, the data is multiplicative approach previously. That is why after applying a logarithm, it went to additive approach. Nothing but the data went stationary. So now we have successfully converted the multiplicative approach data into an additive approach. That is how we go with. So there is no requirement for you to actually identify which data is additive data or which data is multiplicative data. It is being taken care by the stationarity here. Understood?
That's pretty cool. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? Yeah, Mahesh, I think your hand is raised. Yeah.
What is the main use of ARIMA model?
Yeah, ARIMA model is nothing but a prediction technique with which you try to predict the future values. When it is trying to predict the future values, usually whenever we want any model to predict some future values, what we want our model to explain, we want our model to explain all the different characteristics which are being present in our past data, right? So in time series data, what will be the characteristics? In time series data, our independent variable is time. So the characteristics will be the data itself. The past data, nothing but our present data is, we will try to find out how much our present data is depending on our past data, and we try to apply the same value, or we try to multiply or kind of apply the same formula to our present value to find out the predict the future value. That is how the ARIMA works.
Okay, it is mainly used for predicting the future values, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
prediction only. If you go with any machine learning technique, or if you go with any other than machine learning techniques as well, most of the techniques are introduced just to identify the models for prediction purpose only.
Yeah. In that case, you said that variance can be reduced by applying log. The
Yeah.
value of the difference can be reduced to -1 to +1, right?
Yeah, it can be reduced to -1 to +1.
అయితే అలా చేసినప్పుడు మనం ఎలా ప్రెడిక్ట్ చేయగలం? అంటే దాని యొక్క ఒరిజినల్ వాల్యూ మనం తగ్గించేస్తున్నాం కదా.
Yeah, actually we want to try to find out the relationship, right? We want to try to find out the relationship between the past point and the present point. But when we are trying to find out the relationship between them, if the change is too high, let's say our past data is showing a sales of 10 sales, and our present data, it is showing a sales of 1,000 or maybe 10,000.
Okay.
There is a huge difference. How many times you need to multiply 10 to get the 10,000? Right? If we apply the same formula and multiply the same kind of 10 that much value, if you try to multiply this, take the same value and multiply with our current data, it will give us into a millions. But will our company produce millions of sales in the next few days or maybe next few months or years? We cannot predict, right? We want it to be reasonable prediction. Our prediction wants to depend on our current data, and the previous data is just an example. The change in the previous data is what we want. We don't want the previous data to be accurate. Okay. We want the change, how much change is being happening. When we try to apply logarithm and convert these values to as low as -1 to +1, the change will be so less, but this change will accurately help to predict our future values. When you multiply that value to our current value, nothing but when you apply the formula which we get in the ARIMA model, if we apply the formula of that to our current value, it will give you a better prediction values rather than if we just put the whole data itself. That is why we use the logarithm. That is where it comes, this multiplicative and additive approach. Additive approach is nothing but we are directly going and applying our model on the data set. But in multiplicative approach, we need to reduce this high variance. That is when the logarithm comes. This high variance is being reduced by the help of logarithm. It will reduce this high variance and make it a reasonable variance with which we can easily predict the future values. Am I clear, Mahesh?
Yeah, yes, true.
Yeah, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, Kalyan, why don't you start the ARIMA modeling?
Yeah, it will be my pleasure, Gokul. So let me continue the presentation with ARIMA modeling. So once again, good evening, friends. And let me quickly start with the ARIMA modeling. Thank you, Gokul, for clearly explaining how to make the data as stationary and what is the time series analysis. So ARIMA modeling is a time series analysis technique which is used to analyze the data which is available in our real time. So you may be aware of a data like so-and-so sales happens on so-and-so date. So all the data is time series data which is available to you. If it is time series data, but the intake of data may not be time series. You need to convert them into the time series, which already Gokul have shown you how to convert the data into series. So having a periodical time to certain amount is the time series which we use, and ARIMA modeling is a technique that comes under the time series analysis. So ARIMA modeling is used to forecast the values based upon the past and present data, or else only the past. The whatever data you give, and you can ask for next upcoming years or just to verify also. So if you are having some like let us say you are having Reliance Industries data, and like Reliance Jio is making some sales of mobiles like Jio phones of so and so quantity. If it is making if you are having past 3 years of data with you, you can predict the values, that is you can forecast the values for upcoming 2 or 3 or 4 or 10 years of any years you want. But all I mention is here thus amount of the seasonality conditions are not accurate, and it may vary from situation to situation. So all you need to know is previously Google have explained that additive model talks about takes the variance as constant because the seasonality will be absent there. So the trend may be constant, but on consideration of seasonality, the trend may not be constant and the variance keep on varying. So the trend may move up or down and there will be slight variations in the curve. So that is what Google is explaining, and thus consideration of seasonality changes the additive model to multiplicative model. So that is the major difference between an additive model as well as multiplicative model, where the seasonality will be absent in additive model and the seasonality in consideration with lag is considered in the multiplicative model. So moving on to ARIMA modeling. So ARIMA stands for, we can split ARIMA into 3 parts, that is nothing but AR, I and MA. So each term talks about a specific new terms, like AR represents auto regression. So what is auto regression means? Auto regression is nothing but doing a continuous fitting a regression model so that an absolute line is drawn as a mean. So this is used to identify the relationship between the current observations and the observations that are completed in the past. So the regression line fits a constant mean, and all the other data points or the trend represents the past. So we are going to normalize, let us say, for our understanding purpose. So and moving on to I is nothing but integration. So what we are going to integrate is you are integrating AR, that is not auto regression, with MA. MA is nothing but moving averages. Okay, for your understanding, let's go with moving averages. You know, moving averages is nothing but you will vary upon by changing the differencing model. So that is nothing but the residual error. It is nothing but checking the use of dependency between the observation as well as the residual error. So residual error occurs usually after the obtaining the model, and you will compare what is the residual errors you got and the observation you have. What is the dependency between them? And if you are lagged by 1 year, what can be the change? If you are lagged by 2 years, what can be the next change? So how many years you need to keep on lagging so that we can fit a model, whether it is it falls under an additive model or multiplicative model, like that you can identify it. So usually moving averages is denoted with Q, and auto regression models are represented with T. So what is integration is nothing but you are integrating auto regression with moving averages. That is nothing but by using differentiation. So you are differentiating, like you are subtracting the present observations minus a lagged observation. Let us suppose you are having the current observation and past observations, you need the difference. So you are subtracting the past from the present. So you will get what is the difference between them. So integration is nothing but the differentiation. Differentiation, you may also call it as diffing. In our coding part, we use the term like diffing. So in theoretically, they mention it as differencing. Differencing is nothing but the subtraction of current values from the previous current values to the previous value. So this is what ARIMA means. So ARIMA means auto regression, that is a regression model, and I means integration, that is nothing but diffing, and moving averages is model is keep on lagging for our convenience, so that we can measure the residual error. So this is what ARIMA modeling means, and the ARIMA modeling basic structure will be of P, D, Q. That is nothing but auto regression, integration, moving averages. So these three.
Kalyan, are you sharing your screen?
Yes, I am sharing my screen.
I'm sorry, I cannot see. Could you please reshare it?
Once you can. Everyone is facing the same issue, or only Gokul?
No, Kalyan, we can see this.
Okay, then I will rejoin.
Okay.
No worries.
Okay, then let me continue. So moving on with ARIMA modeling, you may be aware of the terms like ARIMA. So up to now, we are clear with ARIMA. If you are having, let me finish these three terms and you can ask me if any doubts you have. So ARIMA means it is non-seasonal. It only considers data like present and past data. It doesn't involve any actions of seasonal effects. So if we include the seasonal effect, it will be SARIMA. And although with including the seasonal effects and also the exogenous variables like other variables which may impact directly or indirectly. So all these will come under SARIMAX. You may be aware of ARIMA and SARIMA, but SARIMAX is some other type which rarely be used. Mostly we use the two terms like ARIMA and SARIMA. ARIMA is non-seasonal, SARIMA is seasonal. So this is what ARIMA means. Up to now, are we clear with the terms?
Yes, Kalyan.
Okay, then. Let me quickly move towards the assumptions of ARIMA modeling. So the first and foremost in every time series analysis is that the data must be stationary, where the data must be having the mean constant and the variance constant, so that the data can be forecasted with more accuracy. So how much the data is stationary? If the data is stationary, the model can be trained fitted easily, and it can better predict accurate results. It can also take the data which is not stationary, but fitting a model will absolutely result in errors. So the initial thing is the data must be stationary, and the other assumption considered by ARIMA modeling is it only predicts the values for univariate analysis. That is nothing but it considers only one. If we are having some time period like 2010 to 2020 sales of an XYZ company, it is only going to take the sales only univariate. That is nothing but only one variable, that is sales here. It is going to intake the sales value over a certain period of time, and it is going to predict forecast on the same. So ARIMA model is restricted to only one. So these two will be the assumptions of ARIMA modeling, and the steps you need to follow while building a model is nothing but exploratory analysis, which I have already talked in the previous sessions. Like you need to pre-process the data. That is nothing but you need to check whether the data is stationary or not, and are you considering only one value or not? So to check the data that which fits our assumptions. Next is fitting a model, that is nothing but importing our function from the respective module and giving the data to the function so that a model can be fitted. After fitting a model, the diagnostic measures is you will analyze the model, like you will view the what are the summary statistics of the model so that you can get the detailed report or analysis about the model. So whether our model is acceptable or is it better compared to any other models, we can compare. So this is how the modeling can be done. And I will be showing you, like as we have talked earlier, differencing uh, is to make the mean as a like it is applied multiple times to make to maintain the seasonality and the normal trend as constant. So making the means and variances constant, you will be constantly applying the logarithm as well as the differencing. Usually you will apply logarithm for only one time, whereas you can apply differencing as many times as you can. So this is differencing is generally used to make the data constant so that the series will become stationary and normally distributed. Coming to ACF and PACF, you may be aware of these two terms while our faculty are discussing in R programming. Same the concept repeats here. ACF stands for autocorrelation function, and whereas PACF stands for the partial autocorrelation function. So let me start with autocorrelation function, where autocorrelation function explains the like it plots a graph between the time time series data available with respect to the time and the quantity, so that you can identify whether any correlation between the whether a correlation is being carried out across the time. And also the partial autocorrelation function discuss about the lag between the in between the time periods which is denoted by P, and the autocorrelation ACF gives Q value and PACF gives the P value. So and the differencing gives the D value. So what is the basic structure we follow is nothing but arima of P comma D comma Q, where P comes from PACF and D comes from differencing and Q from ACF. You know, as Gokul have already discussed earlier, like let me quickly start with a new file. Let me store the data in data variable, and we import the data using pandas library. So pd.csv and sorry, read underscore csv of airline passengers.csv with my index column as 0, and coming towards the squeeze as true, so that my data can be, you can see the data. So all I have is month with the passengers data. And let me quickly start with showing the plotting. So data.plot gives the plot where you can see here the mean is not constant because it looks like some curved shape. Let me make initially the mean constant. So let me again store the data in the data variable itself, but by applying log. So log can be applied using np.log of sorry, variance is much varying. So let me apply log. So you can view the data as here 112 previously by applying logarithm, the value will be 4.719. So previously Mahesh has asked like you are changing the data like which may vary upon logging, applying log and differencing the way the values may vary in between -1 to +1. Yes, and how can you use those values? So these values are used to make the data stationary and fit into the model so that the model can understand on what basis the data is getting changed and if the trend continues as same, what can be the values and the real values can extracted from the residual values. That is nothing but the result will contain a component like or attribute like residual values or residual errors. So in which the original values will be stored. So I will show you at the end of the session. You can identify what can be the forecasted original values for the upcoming next. Let me say for a 12 months. Let me suppose because this data is available clearly in the month wise. So let me predict for the next 12 months. So I will show you how you can get the data. Let me quickly move on. Like, so you have again data in data you have plot. You're going to plot. So previously with checking here the variance maybe variance and the covariance may vary, but in this new plot by applying the log the variance keeps on constant and the covariance will also automatically adjust by making mean and variance constant. The covariance will automatically will become constant. So initially we have applied the logarithm term, so the data gets okay. You can apply the ADF test, that is nothing but AD Fuller command to test this. But previously Gokul have already tested, and you find on this data you find that the data is not still stationary. Let me quickly apply the differencing also without wasting any time. So I apply diffing equal to data dot passengers where our data is minus data dot passengers dot shift of -1 is nothing but it is changing the values. So let me quickly show what. So you can see here like previously we are having from 1949 to 1960 of December, and all the values are filled. But here by shifting one column, like one term of record, all the records will be shifted by one lag. That is nothing but one lagged by one, and a null value will be created. So if we shift by 2, it will be shifted by 2. It creates uh, it the all the values will be lagged by 2. That is nothing but 2 values will be skipped and assigned. So this is how the shift works, and it is nothing but subtracting. In this we are going to subtract the from the present data. We are going to separate the past data, that is nothing but lagged by one, where previously Gokul have applied data dot some diff of which gave the diffing result. This is same as it, but I am doing in a different way, so don't get confused. And this is nothing but a diffing, and let me apply diffing. So after one second. So this is what it looked like after applying one diffing, where previously the data will be of of same variance, but making the mean as unique. Like if the absolute line occurs here, then the data is distributed like this. We have made the mean as constant and variance as constant. Like let me check um, with the ADF test, so that you can identify whether the data is stationary or not. So you can see that our p-value is nothing but, here the first value says uh, about the r value. Sorry, let me say r statistic, and second value talks about the p-value, and the p-value here, this will be the observations, and this will be the lagged observations, like that. And coming to the our important part, that is nothing but p-value, it is greater than 0.05, which states that the data is still uh, not at all stationary. And let me again diff so that you can visualize, like diffing diff dot. Let me consider diff one, and let me shift this diff by again one. So you can again clearly say that, see, like the variance may vary and the covariance may also may adjust here. Let me check the ADF test here. So my ADF test P is still like this. Let me once check the KPSS test. So the KPSS value is 0.1. That means it is more than 0.05, where uh, the greater term includes that we need to accept the null hypothesis, that is nothing but data is stationary here. But coming to here, sorry, so coming to here, the data is still having differencing value 0.07, which is also greater than 0.05, where the null hypothesis will be like we should not accept. So we applied until now two diffings. Let me try a third diff also. So diff 3 equal to diff 2 minus diff 2 lagged by 1. I'm sorry, previously I executed diff dot drop NA, so I got wrong result. So by applying the second diffing itself, we will get the p-value is less than 0.05, where our data became stationary. And you can also view the KPSS test, where our p-value is greater than 0.05, which makes the null hypothesis, accept the null hypothesis, where the data is stationary. So uh, you can identify like the diffing, you have completed 2 times of diffing. So our diffing equal to 2, that is d value equal to 2 uh, will happen. And what happen if we if we apply third time diffing is it will still lies within the value, and you can also view the graph here. So this is how the thing is done. But as of now, I'm going to consider where my p-value is less than 0.05 for the ADF test, and coming to KPSS test, my data is already stationary here with P is greater than 0.05. So this is how we take, and we can count like we have completed two diffings so far. So the D value will be 2 as of now. So for our confusion, let me delete these. So So D will be 2, and moving on, you need to identify the ACF and PACF so that you can get the values of P and Q, where ARIMA should be look like P comma D comma Q. Okay, let me say like this, and this is what we call as without seasonality. And if we take like So this is what it looks like with the seasonality. So with comparison of seasonality component, you will again get PDQ, which will be considered based upon the seasonal effect, and a lag to be maintained. Like this can be of iterative process also. So ARIMA model without seasonality and with seasonality, we usually consider with seasonality as SARIMA. So for our understanding, you can identify as SARIMA and ARIMA, where SARIMA is considering the seasonality and ARIMA is not considering the seasonality. So let me quickly start with the identification of P and Q values, where P talks about the PACF, that is nothing but partial autocorrelation function, and ACF talks about the autocorrelation function. So let me quickly import from statsmodels.api, sorry, statsmodels.graphics dot TSA plots. We can import plot underscore ACF comma plot underscore PACF. So in statsmodels.graphics.time series analysis plots, you have plot underscore ACF and plot underscore PACF, which we also we require like stat models dot let me take it as SM as my tag here. So stat models as API as SM. So API, this is used for visualization purpose to draw graphs. So let me show you how ACF chart look like. Shall I name it as ACF so you can easily understand? Like SM is nothing but statsmodels.api.graphics, which we generally use for visualization. It's a module in statsmodels.api. In graphics also we have time series analysis, and in that we are going to take plot ACF, plot underscore ACF of. So here this command is used to to get the ACF plot for identification of Q value. So let me load my data, that is nothing but my diff data. Let me load my diff data, that is nothing but diff2, where the data became stationary. So I'm going to import diff2, and I'm going to reject the null values, because including the null values it may throw an error like your model is not useful or your Akaiti information criteria is null. So let me remove the null values, and let me run this. Okay, then you can identify like let me consider this is the boundary or region where everything a boundary is set, upper limit and lower limit. Let me suppose like that. For visualization purpose, you can identify the Q as 1, where only one string has crossed the line, so you can identify as 1. So for by visualization I can say that my Q value is 1 from graph. And similarly you are going to apply like for the PACF also. Where you can identify like you may not visualize like the boundaries, but let me increase the lags by 12. So here I added the lag where you let me reduce the lag. This is over. So here you may identify like there is initially only one string. Let me consider as p equal to 1, or you may consider as 0 also, because as no strings are crossing the border if on the top side. So let me consider as of now, like shall I take it as 1 or 0? You decide from the graph. Because initially one string will be always present for every graph, and let me take at least let me take by the visualization p equal to 0. So we finally got that our ARIMA model with p equal to 0, d equal to 2 times we have diff, and q equal to 1. So our model must look like ARIMA of 0, 2, 1. Okay, remember this. And so this is what by visualization purpose you got. The model can be a good fit at ARIMA with p equal to 0, d equal to 2, and q equal to 1. So let us fit the model. So here from here you can identify how a model can be, an ARIMA model can be fitted. So let me quickly import from statsmodels dot tsa dot arima underscore model. We can import ARIMA. So this is from where, from ARIMA underscore model TSA, that is nothing but time series analysis dot arima underscore model, we get our function like arima, so that the arima will be can be loaded like let me say, shall we store in model so you can understand. So our model is like arima of so we are fitting a model. We took the data as a stationary to identify the differencing p value and q value only. But while considering an ARIMA model, you will be taking as the initial data only. So I made a mistake, like I have stored the log data in data, so it will when I retrieve data, it will take the log data. So let me quickly change this again. So here when I retrieve the data, so data is the original data which we considered in the first time. That is nothing but you are taking the 112 value. So Mahesh, as you asked the doubt, so we have used the like stationary data after applying the logarithm and as well as uh, diffing and making the means constant, we identified p, d, and q values. So you got an order like that. So those will be the order for ARIMA. So when you are going to consider while fitting a model, you will be freshly again considering the original data, so which is having its own trend. So by taking the data and specifying the order which you have derived as 0, 2, 1. So let me make ms equal to model dot fit. So don't worry about the warning. So ms dot summary So model.fitOff is the function to fit the model, and ms.summary is used to identify the descriptive statistics where your model is fitted for the order of 0 and 2 and 1. So p equal to 0, d equal to 2, 1 equal q equal to 1. This is what you want to test, and you got the criteria like Akaike information criteria is used to verify whether our ARIMA model is best or not. So you got the Akaike information criteria as 1413.363. So let me change this. So you got 0 to 1. Let me change my p value to 1. Let me see. So it is throwing an error like you can't choose this model because the moving averages coefficients are not invertible. So let me change it like entire term was 1, 1, 0. Let me say this. So for 1, 1, 0, the Akaike information criteria is 14, not 3. So then compared to previous one, this may be of better fit. So why can't you identify it as 1, 1, 0 while you are visualizing? So it will be an error. you are leaving the best model and taking that. So in order to run all the iterations, you may not visualize and made a human error here. So based upon that purpose, a better model is not being selected. So in order to uh, like reduce that, we use AutoArima in R programming. Similarly, we can use the AutoArima function here also. So let me quickly import the AutoArima function. So for that purpose, you need to having PMD Arima. So for that, you need to install PMD Arima, which I have installed earlier. So if you are not having this, you need to install and you need to restart the kernel. Okay, so I'm not going to restart now. If you are installing now, you need to restart the kernel and then import our package, like import PMD Arima. From PMD Arima, you are going to import auto_arima. So this is the function which we use, and we can put like, let me store in model one, where our auto_arima is having the data passengers. So our data is passengers with the trace equal to true, which we also use in R programming. And okay, let me run this and let me see. So it is going to perform the statistics by interpretation. In interpretation, it is going to change the p-value iterations and d-value iterations and q-value iterations. It will compute for all the values and it will identify that it throwed an best model result, like the Arima model is best at p equal to 4, and that is nothing but at partial autocorrelation as 4, and at one time differencing with 3 times of q, that is moving averages. So this is what AutoArima is used for iteration purpose, and it will throw the best fit model which you face, like a human error will be made while data visualizing. So you may not take previously you may not consider like our by this you can say our q equal to 1, or you may take something else, but here the q is 3. So this is what need to be considered, because this is uh, this is applied over a different lag period. When I change my lag to 12, you can identify there is no lag. When I change it to 1, you can see there will be of something other lag. So you can see of different times. So P is here 3. Let me say suppose 3, let me say suppose 4 nodes are crossing this. So you got like P at P equal to 4, our model is best. So this may be. So how can you identify these lags need to be 12 or 15? So there are different types of lags you consider and iterations. So this model keeps on iteration. It provides all the iteration results stepwise, where you got the best model at 4, p equal to 4, and q equal d equal to 1 and q equal to 3. And after, the next step would be, what if our data is contains some seasonality effect? What you need to do, that's what you do, like Sarima here with this by specifying PDQ for your understanding and quick response. Let me suggest like with seasonal equal to true and with M as some 12. Let me suppose 12. M is nothing but the lag order which you specify in the brackets. Okay, this is the lag order that is represented with M here. So let me quickly run this. So let me identify the seasonality effects, which is in the form of small PDQ, which represents the normal trend, and capital P, capital D, capital Q, which represents the seasonality effect. So it performed analysis and threw out an output like the model is better fit with consideration of seasonality and lag at peak small p2 and differencing 1 and q as 1, and as well as that by considering the seasonality effect at 1 diffing and lag order equal to 12, our model is a better fit. So you can verify this with the results here. Like among all the Akaiki information criterion available, the least one is 1017.847, which makes the model as a best fit, which chooses it, where Akaiki information criterion is a measure to identify our whether our model is a good fit or not. And also there will be another criterion like BIC, Bayesian information criteria. So that can also be used, but mostly AIC is considered, and the least AIC value is the best fit. So let me also show like so at Sarimax of 2, 1, 1 and X of 0, 1 and 0 with lag order of 12. Here I didn't specify like you need to perform Sarima or Sarimax or Arima. So it automatically chooses with the increment of lag orders like seasonality effects and lag order. It will choose like Sarimax. It throws an output like Sarima. If there is no lag order, if it is only having seasonality effects like 0, 1, 0, it will throw an output like Sarima. With the exogenous, that is nothing but lag variable, you are going to identify the model as a Sarimax. So here the AIC is 1017 and the model is fitted like this, and the tests which are used also like LJUNG box and JARC-BERA test, all the parameters can also be identified here. So this is the best method I will choose, which will reduce lot of time and provides a quick response, which by which you can identify. So let me consider the seasonality effect and then forecast, so that you can easily forecast for a non-seasonal, that is only simple ARIMA. So let me take model 1, which is having our seasonality effect model, and let me forecast for next 12 months. Where my order is 211 and my seasonal effect will be, sorry, seasonal underscore order will be like 0, 1, 0 with my M, that is nothing but lag is 12. So let me fit like model dot fit of. Let me store it in A. Sorry, here the model must be of Sarima. I am loading Arima here, so excuse me for a while. It will be in stats models package dot API dot TSA dot some state space dot Sarima where seasonal underscore order will be some 0, 1, 0 and 12. There will not be something like output M. So this can be our fitted model will be stored in A, where you can see the residuals here. So residual errors are these, and if you need to forecast, like you can forecast using the fitted model. Here I fitted the model dot fit in A, so I am forecasting using the same variable. So for you can fit the model for next 12 months here. So as previously Mahesh is asking, like how we get the real values is like this, based upon the fitting of using the same data. You are using the original data with the specified trend order as well as the seasonal order, so that the model will be fitted on consideration of these, but the values will be forecasted for the next 12 months will be. So on January 1961 there can be of passengers of 445, and coming to February season there may be a few days, so there will be of some few travelers. So based upon that purpose they will be forecasting. So this is how the forecasting is done in the using the Arima modeling. Here I used Sarimax because I have seasonal orders with the lag. So if you want to directly just want for the Arima modeling, you can also do it like model equal to Arima. Previously we have already imported Arima, so I am directly importing Arima. Like order equal to some 2, 1, 1, and my storing some 1 equal to model dot fit. So these will be the data which I will be getting for the next 12 years. So this is how a Arima model can be forecasted, and Sarimax model can be forecasted. If you remove the lag order, it will become the Sarima. That's how we will be building the Arima modeling. So if you are having any doubts, you can ask me now. So no one is having any doubts. Can I stop the session?
Yes, Kalyan, we have no doubts. You can.
Anusha, are you there?
No.
No, bro. Okay, let me stop the recording.